Showtime.
Dynamite download.
You Dynamite download, your home for all positive coverage with all elite wrestling.
Oh, you guys, positive energy.
In this reality, like, it is me. Like,
Who let this guy in here?
This is what pro wrestling's supposed to feel like.
I'm saying I have a better record than Kenny Omega and Samoa Joe, and now I'm going to have to wrestle them.
I've never seen someone able to break down like wrestling like he does.
I said, you know, Mariah May. She said, who?
Because I'm so driven, and I'm so moved to like what I want to do.
The versus Brian Keith match. It's awesome.
That's so cool. You got like these creepy ass dudes.
Oldest ride, longest line.
I was like deep diving into like cults.
My real story does connect with a lot of people.
I never say never about anything.
Yeah. Back to do an interview with those guys. You know why? Because they spread positivity about AEW.
Welcome to Dynamite Download.
Woo!
What's up, everybody? Dynamite Download episode 140. We got a little misspell there. Wait, it's supposed to be 149.
Nueve. That's right. Well, hey, that's
yes,
keeping
149 right there. Speaking of, yeah, we're no longer the Ocho. 140 the Ocho. We're 140 the Nueve. That's interesting how that all panned out, which we'll discuss there. But I gotta give props. Happy anniversary, Dynamite, and we gotta throw it up. The SPD special, the confetti, because it is 5 years of Dynamite. Very impressive stuff. Time flies, and honestly, it feels longer than that. I was talking to my wife, and I was like, she's not a wrestling fan, but she knows all about it and a big supporter of DD and what we do. However, she was like, it feels much longer than 5 years. So that's a testament to what AEW has done. And, before we dive into the card and stuff in 5 years, I'll throw up the first Dynamite ever and then this card. But let's say it's really hard to go back in the Rolodex and think of stuff, but does any moments really stand out to you in Dynamite to you, like that are just marquee moments that you'll never forget?
Oh yeah. If you had to do the top 10, and that was interesting too, because MJF, everybody was asking for their favorite, like Evil Uno was asking favorite Dark Order moment.
So many.
This and that. One of my favorite moments was, of course, the incredible Hangman Dark Order entrance that they did. Was, to me, that's one of the best moments that they've had. Brody Lee was, his presence was fantastic. Of course, Brent Ross, the general of the Thunder Army. The Thunder versus Britt Baker lights out match was incredible.
I mean, that really catapulted the women's division, as we discussed on our show a lot, to the next level, and that was definitely a marquee moment for sure. So many moments. I mean, we can go on, and it's like you forget about some of those things. And like I was texting you guys early on, that first Dynamite, when Mox came, and then when the Inner Circle was formed, and so many like chill moments. And the cage match with Wardlow and Cody is one of those moments that really stood out to me. And just some of like those daily place years really capitalized on a lot of stuff, and really got to showcase some new wrestlers and putting them to the top of the tier of the wrestling world, with AEW coming onto the map, because there's so many of the AEW roster that I was like, who is this, and don't know much about them. And they did such a great job of elevating a lot of these stars and creating stars. And it's been a fun ride for 5 years.
It's interesting too. I was thinking, the odds were so stacked against AEW to be successful. They just start out, they get a little under a year going, and not even a year. It was like 2019 October is their first Dynamite, and then 2020 comes around, lockdowns. They had that month where they were doing everything at QT Marshall's thing. So many things they had, that so many things stacked against them, and look where they are now. And just looking at this, look where all these folks are. By the way, we wish Sammy a speedy recovery. We understand he got injured at Ring of Honor match, so I hope he's better. Hope he gets better. Also, to I believe her name was Kelly Morgan or Moran. She was the enhancement talent that wrestled Lady Frost. Also had an injury, but yeah, look at Sammy versus Cody. That was the first match. We had the debut of the Inner Circle, or the Inner Circle started to form further when we got Jake Hager and Sammy joining the Inner Circle that night. Rio becoming the very first women's champion. The Hangman Pac feud was fantastic. Of course, John Moxley showing up behind Kenny and that whole
such a marquee moment.
One of the things I thought was interesting was how the trajectory of, MJF, of course, had that feud with Brandon Cutler, but Brandon Cutler, I think they were hoping to push him be a baby face. And of course, he had that wobbly leg spot and fell, but he actually took lemons and made lemonade. And I love that he eventually became such a beloved character. I mean, yes,
Stooge
of the year. I mean, he became such a great Stooge character and beloved. Like, yeah, I think he actually surpassed popularity as the Cold Spray Stooge than he did as any babyface.
I hope he bought stock in Cold Spray early on. Honestly, looking at that list of that first Dynamite there, it's really a testament to the product as well. Of a lot of people are still here pushing in their growth, and where Jericho being the top guy to where he's at now, and then the Young Bucks, and hopefully Kenny Omega comes back, and one of the big things that really pops out to me, other than MJF going to versus Cutler to being the top guy, is Pac has silently been an OG. You almost don't think about him as an OG. Honestly, when I think of OGs, I don't have him on my short list, which is a shame because he is, and someone of his talent caliber. But just for some reason, to me, I don't know if you feel the same way. I don't think of him as an OG, but he has been there through the thick and thin. He's had such a roller coaster ride, and I really hope this new chapter that he's in with Mox is really going to solidify him as, top tier, because that guy is just unbelievable.
Yeah, I think so. And I love that, injuries aside, and, of course we know the death triangle, what's going on with that. But yeah, Pac is, I wouldn't call him a pillar, but he's been there since the beginning, and he's just, and he was also like, he stepped in when Mox had that MRSA issue before the Dynamite started. He stepped in to feud with Kenny, and became he had that classic feud with Kenny Omega. A lot of interesting stuff, and we've seen a lot of wrestlers come and go. We've seen a lot of new folks show up. But what's one thing that's clear, and we were talking about this on Mission Pro Spotlight earlier today, that because of AEW and because of this, fighting all the odds and becoming successful, wrestlers now have a lot more options, and they have a lot more negotiating power, and there's a lot more. And I feel like wrestling overall has been elevated because of AEW's existence.
You're absolutely right.
And it's just, I
100%.
feel like, because you have a Mercedes Moné that's able to say, listen, I'm going to go to AEW. You have a Swerve Strickland who was not as valued at WWE. He comes over and becomes the superstar he is now. Of course, we'll talk about where his next feud's going a little bit.
I would have never in a million years, 5 years ago, if that all makes sense, predicted Danielson, Christian Cage, Cope, Mercedes, and Samoa Joe, all these people coming to AEW. I never would have. I wouldn't have thought that this, nothing against them. I just thought they're going to continue to grow these quote unquote indie wrestlers, but to get these marquee names to elevate everyone as the tide rises, so does the ships, all the ships together. And so that's the way I see it. You're bringing in these, and then now you're bringing in MVP and Shelton Benjamin, which we'll talk a little bit about. So yes, okay, ex-WWE, you're going to have that marquee or, that little badge that you've done, but we're not trying to rinse and repeat. And I don't feel like AEW does that at all. And that's why we love this product. They don't rinse and repeat of what WWE's been doing. And they're bringing talent to try to showcase them in different lights and better lights, in my opinion. And it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. And what a lot of people forget too, when especially the haters that like to go, oh, another WWE guy, is a lot of these wrestlers, they didn't start out WWE or AEW. They were on the indies, we're going to talk about Shelton Benjamin in a little while, but Shelton Benjamin, I believe, before he went to WWE, or he at a time was part of Suzuki Gun. Wasn't he part of Suzuki Gun Ichiban? And that was I think there's a lot of these wrestlers. They were in Ring of Honor. They were in AJ Styles, Ring of Honor. A lot of these guys, they all know each other. They've all wrestled, so it's definitely. I think it's unfair to say, oh, that's an AEW guy, that's a WWE guy. Well, let me ask you this, because this is something it's interesting because people have different takes on it. It sounds like you're saying, though, a lot of people feel like when you bring these marquee names, you bring these talent in, it takes spots away from the homegrown talent. But to me, it's almost like iron sharpens iron. It's almost like this is new blood for them to face. I mean, now you've got the potential of a Shelton Benjamin versus, Kenny Omega, or Shelton versus Ospreay. Or obviously we're all anticipating, just like Steven. I don't think it's even possibly Steven. I think it's a guarantee. He's actually
everything that's saying online.
The word is he's already, like, he and MVP signed with AEW.
Bobby Lashley.
Now, those of you that remember, or if you remember, didn't Max Caster play his sister in a skit on WWE?
I just possibly, but all I remember is just the Leo Rush Lashley combo.
Ooh.
And so I think these new additions, and yes, of course, we know the roster is crowded and all that, and I think we're still, hopefully we'll get a little bit of dilution of the roster throughout the two shows versus repeat feuds throughout. And I feel like we've been doing that. I feel like Collision has been doing a good job of separating itself, keeping some stories that need to be played out every single TV, and then allowing some nice feuds and kind of homestays of each show. Yeah. But that being said, with these new additions, that's new bodies for our draft when we do a +3 in November. So we're not doing a +3 until after Full Gear. So we got Wrestle Dream coming up next weekend, next Saturday, the 12th. And then after Full Gear, which is in November, we're doing our +3. And I mean, these are already two huge, potentially two, but one Shelton Benjamin coming, and then potentially Bobby Lashley. Those are definitely top waiver wire picks of our draft. So
y'all better stay off the Hurt business. I want to draft all three. I want them all three. Who do you think? Tell us in the chat. Who do you think do you think it's just going to be Shelton, Lashley, MVP? You think they're going to add? Should they add? I mean, I don't think they're going to add Swerve. I think he's going to be their feud. But do you put a Hobbs with them? Do you put a Lee Moriarty or Lee Johnson? Or do you put, I mean, obviously it looks like Mercedes Moné and Camille are going to possibly be involved. We'll talk about that. But it's crazy. By the way, I do want to share maybe Max Caster. Maybe Max Caster could rejoin with his sister. Is it not showing?
There it
maybe
is.
Max Caster.
You're right. I see it. Yeah, you're right. He was donning the wig there with a nice mustache for Lashley.
Yep. Good old Max. Always willing to ham it up.
But the suspense is killing me, mind. I know I was at the top of the pyramid. I was at the top of the list of first place standings. Where are we sitting right now after a week and a half of wrestling? How are we looking? Let's talk about the Dynamite Download Season 4 pole positions right now.
Ooh. It is a slobber knocker. Look at
Not Brian at the top again.
But it's a 5-way tie for second place.
Good grief.
I mean, this is insane. Now, and don't sleep on me and Bobby or Craig, because there's still a lot of wrestling to go. But Brian pulling it out on top. You got Brent, Courtney, Full Tilt Deb, SBD, and Steven.
Wow.
All tied for second
neck.
place. 1 point behind Brian. I mean, this isn't a case where one or two people are going to run away with this. I think this is going to be how it is all season long until I can draft the Hurt Business, and then it's over for everybody else. But
scratching and clawing for every point.
And Orange Cassidy's not getting the W's like I thought. So,
not yet, at least. That's not going to last for long. If only the Young Bucks had more than limited dates, we could have seen them wrestle last night, and I could have been possibly another 2 points. If only. But we know they're the EVPs. They have limited dates, so they don't want to hurt themselves, overexert themselves as the tag team champs. But yeah, I'm excited because this is definitely more strategic drafting that we all had to do. And it's fun having 9 teams, because looking at this, I mean, seriously, by the end of this, I totally agree with you. I think first place to 9th place is going to be separated between single-digit amount of points. We're not going to have a plus 20 or whatever it may be with this, because, we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think, and of course, Brent says they did wrestle. No spoilers.
We don't know spoilers.
No spoilers. We have to wait till Friday, so he knows. He has some sage
inside
knowledge,
inside
information. But if you just real quick, I'm just going to run through. If you look at everybody's teams, I mean, they're very well balanced. I mean,
agree.
You look at Takeshita, you got Danielson, you've got you've got Moxley, Ricochet, that you have your FTR as well. We've got Bobby's got a solid group here. Steven with Okada and
Vader.
Just such a great, everybody's got a great team. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be one person just barreling through everybody. It's going to be a claw, like you said. I love what you said. It's going to be like a clawing and scraping to the finish. It's going to be quite a show.
Dynamite 5 years, like I mentioned earlier in the show. I can't believe it's come this far. And it's nice to see Danielson front and center on this marquee billboard here. And a longer show, probably the longest Dynamite with the overrun, and a lot of quality matches to kick things off and to end the show. And honestly, there wasn't, other than that, I mean, as I mentioned with the draft, clawing at this, there was 5 total matches, including the private party quick match, but like 5 matches. One was a no contest, so no points for Ospreay and Ricochet, and really no trios matches, no multi-person matches. So very few points were available on Dynamite.
Actually, I have to say they officially ruled Will Ospreay won by DQ.
I looked on Cage and it said no contest.
Is that what it said? I went off of Barstool, so I can change that. But my understanding was Will Ospreay won due to disqualification.
What should be our? I guess we'll talk off air. I guess what should be our official, rules or official match? Is it Cage?
Well, does AEW doesn't always post their results right away?
That's true. Yeah, I guess we'll have to dive into that to see, because there was a no contest. They didn't announce a winner and all that, so I don't know what it was. It could have been. Who knows? We'll figure that out without. So it was definitely a DQ. I don't know if it was a no contest or who was officially declared the winner, or because any DQ the champion automatically retains.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean he officially gets a win? Regardless, anyways, there's some good matches, some debuts, some re-debuts, and I want to dive right into it. I want to dive right into the women's match, because I want to talk about this one, the Britt Baker versus Serena Deeb match. And I think Britt Baker's presentation tonight on Dynamite with that intro through the crowd, the yellow lights, the terrible towel around her back. I really felt the aura, and it was such a cool entrance. And her match, I think this was a perfect pairing, and it really helped elevate her and let us know. And I think it was perfect time. So I really felt like having her have this match in her hometown after everything that's been going on, and having a few weeks off and kind of being reintroduced to the AEW crowd, maybe it's kind of taking a fresh breath of air, relaxing, and having this match in her home crowd helped us all at home realize how great she is and how important she is and how pivotal he is, because she is definitely one of the pillars of AEW. And with that intro, with her in-ring stuff and her victory, it's great to see the DMD in winning fashion and back on top.
I agree. I'm with Brent though too. Serena Deeb can make a broom look good. I like, and you could argue that. Something's off with Britt though. I felt like, and at the end when Queen Aminata came in to make the save, it almost seemed like Britt had a little bit of ick with Queen Aminata. It was a little weird because it should have been like we're standing together, but it almost seemed like Britt was kind of like standoffish. I don't know if they're gonna turn her heel, whatever. It's interesting, but they got it. Serena Deeb is kind of not in wrestling style, but in role. She's kind of a pack in that you can insert her in. Like she's willing to pivot and be the heel. I like heel Serena Deeb so much better. I know she was trying to kind of a little bit go face, and she was giving people the Serena Deeb dojo handkerchief or whatever, but she plays a better heel. When she went psycho on Riho back at Daly's place, to me, that's when she really elevated it to herself. To me, I love that that they're continuing this Queen Aminata and Serena Deeb feud. I think that Queen Aminata deserves a bit more TV time.
Yeah.
And of course, Mariah May sitting at ringside. My confusion though is it almost feels like when Tony Storm, and there was somebody that mentioned this in the last in when I was at Mission Pro Spotlight, that the direction of the world title is like who is kind of the next push to take on Mariah May. Like, is it Willow? Is it Britt Baker? Or do we necessarily need to have that? But I mean, having Mariah May at ringside, it implied that she was watching Britt Baker. But then, of course, we had the segment with Willow. So, what are they setting up? I don't know. But I do think that, you go back to, lover or hater, Britt Baker is one of the pillars. And I
don't know where they're going. I'm with you at that. I think, obviously the next move is Willow versus Mariah. The trajectory of the DMD, I would play her as a babyface over the next few months. Ultimately having Hayter dethrone Mariah and then turn DMD heel to feud with Hayter. I think that trajectory I would love to see. Keep her this babyface right now. I'm with you, Brent. I don't think DMD versus Mariah at the moment, but I could be wrong. But I think you could save her title shot for a turning on Hayter somehow. Maybe Hayter wins. DMD comes out to congratulate her old friend, and then she turns on her, and then it's ultimately like DMD's back to her rightful place on Team Heel.
Yeah. Both Serena Deeb and Britt Baker are wrestlers that I feel like are better heels than baby faces, even though, and I agree. Full Tilt Deb. Yep. Give the other, unfortunately, it's not her agenda. Yep. Full Tilt Deb is, I know where she's coming from on that one. I feel you.
Kicking off the show, I want to touch base on that DMD, but kicking off the show, very, very, very highly anticipated match with Ospreay and Ricochet. And once again, Excalibur and the team doing a fantastic job with giving us the backstory with these two guys. Yes, we've seen it backstage promos and other promos the last few weeks, kind of build this up for Dynamite 5 year. but I felt like they did such a great job during the match to give us that backstory when they wrestled last and the history and stuff. But in the ring, how did it deliver for you?
I felt like it was a good Dynamite match. I may have held my expectations higher than reasonable. I felt like they did a lot of the cool spots, but it's kind of like when it's kind of like when you're going into a match like this expecting, perfection. And I feel like they held back, but they had to, because this isn't going to be the only time these guys lock up. We can talk about the way that it ended. That I want to separate the way it ended from the match itself. The match itself, let's be honest. I mean, if it was any two other wrestlers that we'd never heard of and they did the same things, we would have been like, "Whoa, my God, whoa, whoa." But the fact that it is Will Ospreay, Ricochet, it's almost like we held them to a higher, or I held them to a higher standard. So it's kind of like, oh, cool, they did the thing. Oh, they did the thing. Oh, that's cool. And I don't want to think like that. I still want to be impressed as I was when I first saw each of them wrestle. But I go back to the whole thing about when you have that dance partner that can keep up with you, they put on poetry. It's like Ricochet and Will Ospreay. Those are two guys that can truly have that chemistry. And I hope this is the first of many that we're going to continue to see. I still think we need to have that no ladders ladder match where you have like Will Ospreay, Ricochet, Ray Phoenix, Commander, all the flippy do guys, and no ladders, but you have to get to the title on top. But I think that I think it was good. I think it served its purpose. It didn't wow me like I was hoping. And then the ending was kind of wah wah. I felt
I'll
like
talk about the match. I'll talk about the match itself before we dive into that ending. I think it was a fantastic match, and I loved every second of it. But this is not a knock on anything. I agree with you with the expectations. Like, it's a shame that we feel like that. It's a shame that because the reputation is known for just like jaws on the floor, standing up, marking out. However, any hesitation of that, I was reminded how great they are with the awesome crowd in Pittsburgh. The crowd was chanting Fight Forever, AEW. The crowd was so into this, and that got me into it more at home. And so that helped out so much more, realizing, wait, these guys are doing some absolute incredible stuff. Even if it is, let's just say, mirroring each other and just like doing, almost like equals in the ring.
Yeah.
And you got to take a step back and be like, this is incredible. Like, even though we see Ospreay put on these fantastic matches, we see Ricochet put on these fantastic matches, you have to realize, like, this is like the cream of the top, cream rising to the top.
Oh yeah,
that's right,
rising to the top.
So that match, I was just very impressed, and I do feel like they held back a little bit. As many high spots and as much as they did in the ring, I felt like there still was a lot of juice left to squeeze in this match. And there's going to be a lot of juice to squeeze in that triple threat that we're going to get at Wrestle Dream. And I think this is a perfect way to book it. And I think Takeshita, as we have spoken very highly of him over the last few months, I think it's nice that he's finally getting this opportunity. And, Takeshita has been going on a tear, both in AEW and around the world in the G1. And I've always been impressed with him, and he continues to impress me more and more in the ring, his character work. I think this is where a few weeks ago, I was talking about how Ricochet, we were kind of on the team Ricochet to win this with Don Callis shenanigans. And so I think this is where you have Don Callis screw over Ospreay and Takeshita potentially pin Ricochet, or Ricochet pin Takeshita, or whatever it may be. This is where Ospreay is going to get screwed over somehow, unfortunately. And so with Callis, now the more this was building up, I was thinking Ricochet could, as much as I don't want him to, I was like, he's kind of leaning into this little attitude, could be going heels a little bit. So I don't know what to make of that. Do you think he is on the path to turning heel?
I don't think so yet. I don't think so yet. I think a lot of this is just the it's kind of like the little bro, big bro kind of feud with Ospreay. But yeah, there were some heelish moments. I don't think they're gonna pull the trigger and have him go full heel, unless he joins the Callis family. Plus, it's kind of difficult to do that when you've got Takeshita standing right there with involved in this whole thing. But yeah, I think this triple threat, I think it's gonna serve as the storytelling device, and it possibly could be the way that Ospreay loses the title. Whether Takeshita gets the win or Ricochet, it'll be one of the other pinning each other, and Ospreay won't be involved. And so that's going to allow for this to play out over the rest of the season, if you will. And we're going to see Ospreay and Ricochet again. We're going to see those matchups again. We're going to see a lot of this stuff. And yeah, it's look at that. I mean, that again, that's such a great moment. And it's a shame that I was kind of like, yeah, they did it, instead of, oh, that's so cool. But you show it to somebody that's never seen these guys wrestle before, it's gonna blow their mind.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And rewatching it, and I was like, man, this is just poetry in motion. These guys are just absolutely just like meshed together so well. Thank you, TK, for booking this for the 5-year anniversary. And this is just the beginning.
And people that were complaining, oh, we're getting Ricochet versus Ospreay, should be on a pay-per-view. I'm like, yeah, shame on you for giving me a steak dinner on a Wednesday night. Yeah. Oh, how dare you give me a steak dinner, a delicious steak dinner. I mean, come on now. And now look what we're getting at Wrestle Dream. We're getting
I think it's perfect booking and perfect lead into Wrestle Dream and what we saw there. And now a couple things with this one. So Hangman obviously has been on an absolute tear. Last week with the Lumberjack match, this is what kind of culminated to Juice going loose on the Hanger himself. And we're all in. We're the Bang Bang Gang is Team Babyface. And I think to have them be the babyface of Collision, the Collision Cowboys, I think that's definitely important. And I think they're going to run with that. They can do it both ways. And the return of Jay White. But the match first before the post-match stuff. The match, I love the way it started. I love the violence and Juice kind of hanging his own. I would love to see Juice in a really, really dirty, hardcore match. I feel like he can be one of those just backyard, dirty, through the crowd, anarchy in the arena type of guys. I would love to see that. But Hanger, man, it's even though Jay White is back and cut one of the best promos backstage, that if you saw it on AEW's social channels afterwards, it's you're putting two top tier guys head to head. And is Jay White going to be able to stop the wrath of Hangman? And I don't know, because I'm scared of Hangman right now.
Yeah, he's gone full psycho. Somebody said Hangman, because you had the guns were sitting there talking, and all of a sudden you just see Hangman just coming up from behind and just,
I know, right?
Attacking. What's going to be interesting here, though, with Jay White added to the mix, first you got to give a shout out to Juice with the happy 5 years, and then here's to your 5 years and slapping him. This was great because now Jay White is back. This Jay White Hangman feud. I'd like to see Jay White kind of get the upper hand on Hangman, go over, and then here's what I'm thinking. Whatever's going on with
let's see.
All right, overbooking by mine. Blackpool Combat Club, Moxley. Let's say Moxley dethrones Bryan Danielson, gets the title. Now you've got him running roughshod. You've got Moxley and the rest of this new BCC. And then Jay White's going for the title, and now you've got the Bang Bang Gang versus the Blackpool Combat Club, and you've got Jay White, Moxley. You've got the Guns versus Pac and Claudio, and we'll talk a little bit more later, but about the BCC side of stuff. But it'd be interesting to see Jay White go for the title, or maybe go after Danielson, but. Jay White and Hanger, this goes back to New Japan, the Bullet Club and all that days. This is going to be a great feud. And, Hanger may have found somebody just as crazy as him in Jay White.
I know this is literally just so fresh with the fresh return and all that, and I loved when Jay White stole the belt, and the championship belt looked great around him. Mm-hmm. And I think a champion does work so good with a quote unquote posse, a group.
Yeah,
I loved it with Jericho, and then Omega and Callis. It would be great with the Bang Bang Gang. And so that being said, I feel like a Jay White victory over this deranged, unhinged, lunatic Hangman would do him so much better. And Hangman would just push him off the edge even more, losing to White. And that's what you want. Even though there's like, how much farther can he go? That's exactly what you want. And so Jay White winning is going to help give him that stepping stone to the next level of getting closer to the top. Now, you mentioned that. That's a whole nother discussion that we can have leading up to Wrestle Dream and also tonight a little bit. Danielson, that's the hot button talk about. I think he's not losing to Mox. I do not want him to lose to Mox this early. They can maybe revisit it. Maybe, do you have anything? Do you want to continue talking about Jay White, or do you want to let's just dive into Danielson stuff?
We can move in. We can go ahead and move on to the
because I would segue to that a little bit. Like the Danielson.
Wait a second there, SPD. You're not gonna just cut out on me right now. You didn't. You thought. I mean, you saw the smackdown that I was giving old Hanger there, and I guess I got to move closer to the camera now all of a sudden. But I don't know what's going on. Anyways, you know that the juice is loose and I'm rock hard. And anyways, I just wanted to let you know I'm all for Jay White kicking Hanger's butt, and I'm going to be in his corner making sure that happens.
Man, that was a great match last night. I'm glad you're okay, and it's nice to see your buddy Jay White back in the Bang Bang Gang.
Switchblade.
Guns up.
Guns up. All right.
But to Danielson, so before we talk about the match, a little bit about, Danielson himself, like this run that we're seeing. It's still so much that can happen, and it would be very shocking that to him to get dethroned in what's today in 9 days and be done. I feel like he's still enjoying himself. He's having some great times. He's having another match next week with Yuta in a tag match. I could totally see this match, Danielson winning, and this not hurting Mox, and then Moxley and his crew just literally just decimating Danielson. The debut of whoever is the ringleader behind this Moxley movement show up, and then they stand tall above Danielson. So Danielson gets his moment, keeps his title, but at the end of the day, he's going to be losing because he's getting a beat down, and whomever that may be, but it might be, here comes the money.
Yeah,
but you never know. So I feel like it's one of those moments where Danielson, maybe he steals a win, kind of like what he stole versus Okada last night, something like that. And then that maybe will protect Mox a little bit. He'll want his vengeance. He'll be one of those things like back of the line. And then if Mox is the guy who's going to dethrone him, which I think that would be very compelling. I don't know. How do you feel right now?
Well, I mean, we'll talk again. This was another ending I didn't like, but I mean, the match was great. I don't mean the ending as far as the result. I didn't like the stipulation. It was like, okay, for the first 20 minutes,
I know,
Continental titles on the line. Then you got to eat an egg, and then you got to go, and then you got to
run around the ring 3 times.
Run around the ring 3 times, and what? But I do agree with Steven. We saw a twinge of that last night. I think that's something that definitely can happen.
I felt like that was going to happen. I really
he
felt
had
like
that
that
hammer. He was kind of looking over. I don't know.
I think so.
my question is like, who you think about it from a legacy standpoint? Brian Danielson has put that stipulation that when he loses the title, he's done.
Yep.
And reports are he is pretty banged up. Like he's like on his last leg, basically, as far as like in ring. He needs to take some time off.
Right.
But like, do you have him lose? Does he want to go out with Mox being the guy that all the great wrestlers when they always want to go out on their back, put somebody else over? But does Mox need that, or do you put it on a does you have Danielson put it on a Darby, or put some of these younger talents over? I almost feel like Darby would be a great person to put over, or somebody, a young talent that. But I don't see anybody else that that would have that impact unless you don't put Wheeler over.
No.
I don't know. Of course, according he wants Takeshita, but I don't know. I almost feel like who would be, and let us know in the chat, who do you think Bryan Danielson should go out on? Who should be his last opponent and to get the title? Should it be Swerve again? Should it be Ospreay?
See, I would love maybe Christian has some kind of play in this match that costs Moxley it or whatever it may be. I want to see Christian versus Danielson. I don't want to see Christian versus Mox because I feel like Mox would just mop the floor with him personally. But I think like Danielson is definitely going to win this match, even though Mox is on Team SPD, and then just continue this thing. And I feel like it's so unpredictable to me.
Yeah.
It's so unpredictable because of the timing of it. If you said this was at World's End, I would feel more confident that Moxley was going to do this, but I don't know where we're going with this. But okay, that aside, Okada versus Danielson 3, legit broken arm versus Okada last time they fought. And this has been a battle between these two guys for a while. And I honestly thought a few more surprises were going to happen last night at the end of this. But we didn't. It is what it is, and I felt like, and that throws another wrench into it. Okada being pissed off. Okada was pissed off that let's just call it the BCC 2.0 right now, or the B2, the B2.0, whatever they are. They are, they're stopping Christian Cage. They're kind of distracting Okada to lose the match. So they're running havoc on not just their sites that they have with Danielson. And that's what I want to see. I want to see them doing more chaotic stuff for the whole company. If Moxley's mission is a war, and if Moxley's mission is, being pushed down his throat by someone else, like, you got to have more than one target. Even though Danielson's the top target, and I'm curious what's going to happen, because, as I've said in the past week in and week out, the Moxley group stuff has been one of my favorite stuff that AEW has been doing, and I look forward to it every single week.
Yeah, I know Brent doesn't like this, but I have a feeling I know who's backing the Moxley. Who's the backer is? They even hinted at. I mean, Excalibur even said, "Who's putting Mox up to this? Like, who's their benefactor or whatever?"
Mox said it pretty much. He's like, "This is our mission." I don't remember the exact quote, but he made on the mic that it's not his decision. He's doing this for the greater good. And I think with Excalibur at home, that's the benefit of hearing the great commentator team, is them being able to add to the story. Just like Shivani was like, when Juice was getting choked out, someone's got to help him. Who is going to help him? Then all of a sudden, cha-ching!
Yeah, good stuff. I don't know if they're going to do an EVP versus the Blackpool Combat Club. EVPs where, you have the Bucks and Okada and Jack Perry versus Blackpool Combat. I don't think that's the direction. But I think it's interesting that
would Okada cost Moxley the match because he cost him the match? When they start that, like, and
then start a feud there?
Something along those lines. I don't know. I do feel like Danielson. It's going to be interesting what we get next week with this tag match, because as we're all talking in the chat and here, it's like that Yuta uneasiness, that Yuta, I honestly, the way he was pacing and the way he was like, his body language was opening to Danielson. I thought he was going to turn on Danielson right then and there. He didn't use the hammer. Now, I don't necessarily want him to turn on Danielson. And it was interesting the way it played out with the trios match on Collision and the way he got the pin and all that. So I think we'll know more to the story starting next week with that one. But the main event scene with Danielson is it's hot right now.
Yeah.
Hot and unpredictable, and that's what you want.
Absolutely.
He's so hot right now. Hansel is so hot.
He's so hot right now. Hansel.
So let's talk about the debut of this. Shelton Benjamin, MVP.
What a great
Right
pop. I mean, what a well-deserved pop they gave for this guy. And it even sounded muted a bit on my TV because when I went back and watched, it was very loud. I thought I love the way they're soft introducing the Hurt Business. Bobby Lashley's coming, but I like how it's been. We had MVP last week now, and poor Nana. Shelton took his coffee, but I love that. I think that's tremendous. I think that they're doing such a great job. I know he's almost 50 years old.
That is Shelton, unbelievable to hear. Unbelievable.
But still, I mean, he's a tremendous. I mean, look at who we have in the 50s and 60s right now. Look who's. Yeah,
we'll talk about him next, right?
Yeah, but Shelton's definitely somebody I think this is going to be great. But obviously, Bobby Lashley's going to be, I think, the big face of this. He's going to be the big push out of this group.
Right.
I'd love to see who they would bring him. Scorpio Sky has been lost, I think, ever since SCU broke up. I actually think Scorpio Sky would be a good fit for the Hurt Business because
and you talked about adding a guy from the current roster last week. And I think that what you just said was someone and sadly kind of forgot about. He came back for a couple of weeks and was gone again. I feel like this would be the perfect opportunity. And all that aside, it doesn't have to be another black wrestler within this group. Like, it doesn't have to be. But Scorpio Sky, given his where is he, these type of vets and this type of guy with MVP leading the way, I think would be a perfect fit. Great call on that.
Yeah. I think that would be tremendous, and it's going to be great. It's going to be great to see where they take this, and I think that the Hurt Business is going to get a proper. It's going to go its proper course this time. Where I think it kind of got shot in the foot a few times at WWE. The faction's going to be able to really show what they're capable of, and it's going to be great, compelling TV.
Do you think that they are Scorpio Sky Court is still on the roster page? So he is still
I believe so, yeah.
He's still on the roster page. I just looked. So that could be if he does debut another waiver wire pickup if we decide that. If he does join the Hurt Business. Now, do you see the quote unquote Hurt Business? Do you see them being this like heel group, or do you see this being this baby face, this tweener, like in betweener? Where do you book them as?
I don't think they have to. I think they are. They're kind of a Moxley where they can be both. Because they that was a heel move to take Nana. I mean, if you're gonna go against Nana, they're probably gonna lean heel because there are 5 things that you cannot do if you're going to be a baby face in AEW. Beat up Rio, harass Nana, mess with Tony Schiavone. Let's see. The other 2 are, I said not beat up Willow. Willow can't turn heel.
Right.
And I guess number 5 would be, I don't think you can and number 5 would be join be under the Jericho learning tree. But there's you mess with Prince Nana, that they're definitely steering heel, and I think what we're gonna do is we'll probably see Swerve come back, be involved, and it'll be kind of a feud. Maybe Swerve picks up some numbers. and he gets his
He's gonna have
mobile
to.
thing back or whatever. But it's gonna be compelling. It's gonna be good stuff.
I'm interested to see where that develops, and I like what you said. How they're slow forming, slow building, all that with this. Let's just call it what it is, the Hurt Business 2.0 as well. But you talked about older wrestlers. Hi guys, on paper that's all that matters. But Jericho, man, that guy is serious. He's drunk the forbidden, or he's eaten the forbidden fruit with never aging and still going in the ring with impressive stuff. But the learning tree segment, still getting a little bit of great camera work and hints of Big Bill kind of looking over his shoulder and giving those glances, and who knows what's going to happen with Big Bill.
Yeah.
But Briscoe versus Jericho for the ROH title at Wrestle Dream, could he become the Nueve or not? It's hard to believe that Jericho, it's not hard to believe. It's shocking that, the champion, and he was just essentially the benchmark of AEW. And then how many people, which I appreciate, he's put over the last couple of years. He's feuded with the likes of Orange Cassidy, Action Andretti, and now Briscoe, and other ones he's been putting over, and which is very selfless of him. Now, is this another one of those times where he puts Briscoe over to really I know Briscoe has established himself as a singles wrestler. He really has. It's coming from like one of the best tag teams. As it's a challenge transition. I mean, he's holding the world title of Ring of Honor, and then for him to beat Jericho, is that something that will really, as he said, put his head on the mantle, or is Jericho going to dethrone him and kind of humble him?
Or is it time for the learning tree to go spend more time on Ring of Honor? Is it time for, like, my thing is this, is if you want to develop, and who knows with the new deal with everybody,
right,
maybe that's some of their plans, is to give Ring of Honor some time, its own programming or something like that. But like, if I understand trying to get people excited about Ring of Honor by having them show up on AEW, but you have your Ring of Honor world champion in arguably a mid-card feud on the main programming. It devalues the ring. I think he should be primarily, the Ring of Honor champion should be like Athena is, almost 99% of their time on Ring of Honor. So whoever walks out of this as Ring of Honor champion, I think they need to go to Ring of Honor and bring eyeballs to the program. I wouldn't mind Jericho becoming the Ring of Honor champion, bring the learning tree and let that be a gimmick in Ring of Honor, and let him feud with the Ring of Honor talent. But I don't know. I don't think that's where they're going with this. I think this is more, this is just the Ring of Honor world title. Their top prize is being used as a mid-card gimmick to get Jericho and Briscoe to feud, and to get the conglomeration and the learning tree to feud. So I don't know.
I think what they're doing with the conglomeration is good, and I think it's been a hit. So losing the title to Jericho, I think Jericho would do a lot of fun, unique stuff with the title, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But the conglomeration, I think, could stand alone without any, no one needs a title. And that gives them that purpose. He's holding the title, and it's great. But you're right. I mean, we've talked about this before. That's one of the biggest downfalls of the crossover with Ring of Honor is the titles on AEW either being defended or showcased or featured or on someone's shoulder, waist, in AEW television that's in Ring of Honor, and then they're not necessarily being featured on that per se title they hold, aka Ring of Honor television and stuff. So I think it's a test. I think it'll be good for Jericho to get the title, and we'll see if maybe he can draw more stuff to Ring of Honor and give him more TV time, because that's what it's all about, is TV time with the learning tree, right?
Yep, so, that's right. Hi, guys.
So I think that it'll be interesting with that. I would put, I would book Jericho, as much as Briscoe has been pretty unbeatable and pretty booked very good via one of TK's favorites, I would put Jericho with the title because honestly, I think that conglomeration, as I mentioned, is better off without titles and just featured with that one.
I agree 100%. And there are feuds you can develop that don't need a title as the gimmick. You know, you can have just straight out feuds. And what Jericho said about Jay to Mark, I mean, that made it a blood feud.
Yeah, that was
you think he was pushing it a little bit?
I mean, well, yes and no. I mean, what's Christian Cage doing? I mean, come on. Like that's just as bad.
Your dead father. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it's not the first time he's done it. It's not the second that he's done it time and time and time again. And so, but Jericho's not that ruthless heel. He's the cheesy heel. And so to go that way, yes, it elevates the feud. And I'm sure Briscoe signed off on that. It wasn't a surprise. I'm going to do this. You know, it's pretty ruthless. But if Briscoe wins, that elevates him, proving like, quote unquote, you are better than your brother or whatever it may be. And so if Jericho loses and gives him a handshake, kind of like the whole Roderick Hook type of thing of that. So interesting on that. I guess the last thing I want to talk about as we're wrapping things up is, as I mentioned, Hook. Who do you think is behind the Hook attack or the Taz attack? And so Hook is clearly pissed off. And so who do you think is behind that? That's going to be Hook's next feud? Anyone in the chat? What are your takes on that?
I don't think it was a coincidence that they then aired the Christian Cage promo. Granted, Christian Cage himself is more looking at the main title feud.
Sure.
But it doesn't mean his prodigal son isn't looking to feud with Hook. I think it's Nick Wayne.
You think it's Wayne?
I think it's Nick Wayne. I think it's I think that now, granted, I think whatever they were planning with what was going on, I think whatever they were planning, unfortunately, and our heart still goes out to Killswitch Luchasaurus. I hope he recovers.
Right. Great point.
But I could see Nick Wayne being Nick Wayne Hook feud would actually be really compelling because there's two young superstars, and Nick Wayne has really embraced the cocky asshole persona, and I think that would be compelling. Brent says, what if it was Hook attacking his dad? That's interesting. He did turn in the FTW championship, and that would actually, I don't know, that would be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I like the Nick Wayne call, and Crayfish agrees here in the chat with that. So that's not someone who I thought about. I really had no intention. Kip Sabian, would that be Kip Sabian? I don't know who would it be like to feud. Like it doesn't make sense for anyone like of the elite. Like who's upset with Hook and or Taz? I don't know. Like that I would want this to go the route where it's like we haven't visited it. I don't want to see like a feud resurfacing that Hook has already had. Like as we talked about last time, the Hook retiring the FTW title was the best thing that he could have done. Mm-hmm. He squeezed all the juice that he could out of that, and I think the way it was perfect. And then I'm ready for him to see if he can take the next steps of what's in store with him here in AEW. So I don't know. I'm curious. And like this episode of Dynamite like had so many different storylines throughout the show. You're talking about this Hook one a little bit. The Young Bucks. We didn't even get to talk about the Young Bucks private party stuff. Obviously the whole world title picture and the return of Jay White, MVP's crew, whatever Mercedes Moné has got planned, and whatever. The Willow, Mariah May, like so much great stuff is coming right now. And the card is just shaping up for Wrestle Dream. Got the triple threat with Ospreay, Ricochet, Takeshita. Obviously Moxley versus Danielson. It seems like Jay White versus, is any other matches been announced?
No, but I think they might be pushing Jack Perry versus Shibata.
Oh yeah, that's been announced, I think. Yep, that was announced.
Yeah.
Shibata versus Jack Perry. Seems like we're going that route of Jay White versus Hangman. And who knows if that's too soon? Possibly Private Party versus Young Bucks because they're doing that trios match on Rampage.
Mm-hmm.
Willow versus Mariah. Mercedes doesn't have a dance partner. A lot of the women's division don't have dance partners right now. I mean, you got to see what's going on there. So in true AEW fashion, they're waiting to the last minute to book what's in store. I hope they kind of figure out what's going on with the trios titles. If either Wheeler's in or out, and then move forward from that.
It's gonna be interesting. I think they definitely teased Wheeler turning on Danielson.
I don't want him to join. I really don't want him to join that BCC 2.0 because I like the way they're going, and I feel like adding him, it'll feel too familiar. But that'll also stack the cards way against Danielson. So having your champion really everything stacked against him, that's kind of compelling and interesting to see. Then you could have Wheeler versus Danielson down the line, and so kind of like protege versus mentor. And so I don't know where it's going, but that's what's great about it is you can't predict. Today on episode 149, we're talking about it. We can come back on next week's episode or then 2 weeks or our previous show, and it'd be totally different.
I still think, I know he's got to close out his story with Callis, but I think Will Hobbs should join the BCC. I think that because Moxley, he's one of Moxley, kind of the way that Moxley talks about Marina Shafir. Will Hobbs is one of those handpicked Moxley guys.
You're right.
So that would be pretty cool.
Yes, man. All right. That's it for episode 149. I'm going to send you these because you can't see them right now on mine, but in the Instagram chat, Crayfish has got some great points that he's touching on. So he's really, throwing in the name Wardlow, and who knows what's going to be in there. So, I mean, we're all big fans of the BCC 2.0 that we're talking about. I really like that dynamic, and I don't necessarily think they need to add anyone. And if they do add someone, I think someone impactful like a Hobbs would be the best move, or a Wardlow. But having Yuta join it, I think nothing against him, but I feel like him and his stature and size and his in-ring work works so much better as a babyface.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Well, we'll see you next week for episode 150. And we got Rampage, Collision. The rankings are going to be updated. We'll see where we stand. I mean, this is where it's at right now with the rankings. And as you mentioned at the top of the show, and it's tight. I mean, we have a 5-way tie for second place, and everyone's going to be scratching and clawing for points all season long. And I can't wait to see how this starts to develop. And I can't wait to add my +3 next month. So, after Full Gear as the final push, having to add in a +3 is going to be fun because you already have some of those ones on the roster. They're like, dang, we new ones as well. So, yes, next week Dynamite is Tuesday, but we're just going to keep our Thursday slot, and so let's keep our Thursday slot unless we switch. But we're going to come back no matter what. Dynamite download is going to be at our usual spot, 9 p.m. on Thursdays. And so join us next week. You'll have a day to digest Dynamite on Title Tuesday. And then we'll be back for episode 150.
Can't believe 150. Wow. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.